that clauses 1 to 3 stand part. Call the Honourable Phil Goff.
Mr Chairman, I'd like to take a brief call on this. This is traditionally where we do a summing up of what's happening, what has happened in the committee on the bill. But I do want to address the title specifically, and the title of this legislation, of course, is the Local Government Auckland Transitional Provisions Amendment Bill, and it is about transition. It's about transition of 8 different councils into a single super city, and it's about the transition from 13 district and regional plans into a single unitary plan to cover resource management issues in Auckland. And consistently through this bill, the Labor Party has supported this legislation. It's supported the legislation because we're very keen to get a single unitary plan. We also supported bringing that plan into existence in earlier legislation. What would normally have taken 10 years under the Resource Management Act, under the Principal Act that we're now amending, will take 3 years. And the way that that was achieved was by having the plan notified and then an independent hearing panel hearing submissions on it. Now, thousands of submissions have been heard, I think 9,000, and there are still 5,000 to go. And the 5,000 to go are on site-specific issues. And that's going to put real pressure on the independent hearing panel to get through by the statutory required date of the 22nd of July. So we have been here to support this bill with measures such as reducing the quorum, increasing the pool of panel members from 7 to 10, and allowing the panels to hear the issues concurrently. So we have no problem with the purpose of the bill. What we have had during the committee stages, sir, is real problem with the process. Everybody knows that this bill was drafted back before the 16th of September. The Minister had it. If this House had been properly managed, it could have been introduced, it could have been read the first time, it could have gone to a select committee, so we could go through the normal democratic procedure of giving the public its say, cross-examining the officials on how the bill was put together, asking parliamentary counsel about whether the drafting of the bill was appropriate and accurate, and we would have got it right. We would have got it right. And the great irony of the last 7 or 8 hours, we started this at 10:30 last night, we went through to midnight, is that again we have been rushing this legislation through and more errors will be made. We haven't learned the lesson of what this legislation was half about. The half that doesn't appear in the title was validation, sir. Validation, as you know, is correcting errors that were made in previous legislation and retrospectively legislating for what was done illegally to be now considered legal. So the process that we've had is a whole lot of questions, genuine questions that we had of the Minister in the Chair. The Minister in the Chair, I think, the ministers in the Chair, none of them have been the ministers in charge of the bill, have taken 2 brief calls. We didn't have the opportunity at the Select Committee to check out why things were being done in a particular way, and we haven't had that opportunity in the House either. And I deplore the fact that legislation that we support has nevertheless been rushed through in the way that it has been unnecessarily. This legislation could have been introduced actually a couple of months ago. We could have done it properly. We could have had a better chance of making sure we got it right. We could have avoided what inevitably will be future validation legislation which comes out of rushed legislation. So yes, Mr Chairman, we do support this bill. We do support the transition that's occurring in Auckland. We want a single, consistent, unitary plan that will bring good resource management practices that will provide for sustainable development in the housing area and the industrial area, but we want to make sure that it is sustainable and that will ensure that instead of the complexity and the fragmented nature of the current district and regional plans, we have one plan. What the government hasn't explained at any point in the House is why it has rushed it through in this inappropriate manner and hasn't taken the time to answer the genuine questions that members of the opposition had.